He's already dead!
Something I noticed a long time ago is that virtual reality games and mobile games both have this problem of developers trying to bring existing genres and games over into this new space without thinking about the strengths and weaknesses of these different hardware environments. There's some genres that just don't work well, for instance, without real tactile buttons, but there are quite a few genres that may actually benefit from a touchscreen interface rather than using a traditional controller. Tactical RPGs are something I've always considered perfect for mobile. And that brings us, rather nicely, to Arc the Lad R. I think the problem with this series has always been the name. Arc the Lad just doesn't sound like a JRPG. For me, the name conjures to mind something more like a platformer, but it is indeed a JRPG series, and you know what? A pretty good one at that. Well, the first 3 games anyway, but thankfully Arc the Lad R returns to the roots of this opening trilogy. The R stands for reboot or reborn, or possibly both, and also a third thing according to the devs. In a way, it's actually a replacement for Arc the Lad 3, which is considered the weakest of the original trilogy, thanks in part to many of the original development team moving on before it was finished. Most of the key members from the first 2 Arc the Lad games returned to develop Arc the Lad R, including the series creator, lead artist, and composer. It's like a replacement for Arc the Lad 3 because the events of Arc the Lad R take place 10 years after Arc the Lad 2, effectively retconning Arc the Lad 3, or at the very least creating an alternate timeline. Don't worry about that too much though, because it's very much its own thing with its own story. You follow the 2 main protagonists, Holt and Mizuha, as they attempt to stop the Empire of Aldia from capturing Mizuha and starting an all-out war. You'll also be trying to deal with the threat of the divine beasts while the world's inhabitants struggle to rebuild society after the events of the Great Disaster, which happened in Arc the Lad 2. Gameplay is pretty heavily story focused, especially for a gacha game, with a lot of the quests having no combat at all and very few of the combat quests being purely combat without some advancement of the story. Combat itself is a fun, tactical grid-based RPG system. You're able to move a character freely within the squares available to them on their turn in order to attack enemies, strengthen your position, heal, or provide support. There is a big emphasis on positioning in general. There are multiple types of passive support abilities that a character can have. Some might give an attack boost to all friendly characters in the 6 squares above them, or they might give a defense boost to friendly characters on either side. Some characters also have a passive healing ability that heals all friendly characters within a certain radius of them at the end of their turn. Attacking enemies from behind deals bonus damage and reducing the chance of a counterattack. Attacking from the side also reduces the chance of a counterattack, but not as much. And attacking from the front is the least desirable because you take a damage penalty and might be counterattacked. There are multiple different unit types with all of the expected RPG roles filled: fighter, healer, tank, buffer, debuffer, etc. And each unit can have a mix of regular attacks, special abilities, passive abilities, and support skills. The way you get characters is, of course, a gacha system. It is a mobile game after all, and I'm sure you're all familiar with how this works. Spend spirit stones in the gacha, get a random assortment of characters. There are some nice features that relate to the gacha in Arc the Lad R though, one major being that you can actually upgrade the rarity of characters, so even if you don't pull that 5-star character you want, you can actually upgrade to it from a 3 or 4-star rarity unit of the same character. The low rarity units aren't all just filler garbage either. Each character has their own quest line, which can be found in character quests once you've drawn the character from the gacha. You'll get more personal stories that delve into the backgrounds of these characters, so even if you get a low rarity unit that isn't useful for your party, it still might be valuable to the experience. There are tons of events happening now for launch which will give you copious amounts of spirit stones and free gacha summons. You're even guaranteed one of the best 5-star characters in the game from the daily login bonuses. Getting loaded up now with all the free stuff will probably get you through most of what these story quests will throw at you. Plus, if you use my link and code in the video description, you'll get even more free stuff. Of course, there is more than just story, with both limited time event missions and a PvP arena mode. Each character can unlock exclusive gear with powerful passive effects, and upgrading them through the awakening system comes with the perk of additional outfits. You'll most likely have to utilize both of these mechanics to compete on the high end in PvP. Personally, I'm more interested in the story, and I have been enjoying it quite a bit. The combat is fun and requires a decent amount of strategy and thought, as long as you're not massively over-leveled of course. I haven't yet felt like the story is running me in circles either, and I've really had no reason to want to spend real money on the gacha. The story looks to be completable and enjoyable even with only 4-star characters, but with the launch events, you'll almost certainly have multiple 5-star units, including Tosh here, who you're guaranteed to get just from logging in. He deals some pretty insane damage. And that's Arc the Lad R. As far as mobile games go, it's worth a look. There aren't a lot of mobile games these days that are legitimately made by the actual developers of the franchise they're based on. Most of the time, the actual development of the game is outsourced with a dev or two from the proper team giving some oversight. The fact that Arc the Lad creator Toshiro Tsushida returned along with many of the original team members to make Arc the Lad R, which is, by all accounts, the actual Arc the Lad 3 story they really wanted to make back in the day, is encouraging. It says to me that the story might actually be worth something. It could even give you the itch to check out the earlier entries in the series, and that's something you should definitely do if you've never experienced Arc the Lad before. So check out the game by using my link in the video description to ensure you get the most out of this launch period. I'll also have it in a pinned comment down below, and while you're down there, why don't you let me know if you've ever played any of the other Arc the Lad games and what did you think of them? Like, subscribe, you know the drill, and other than that, I'll see you all soon.
任せておけ。
すごいところを見せてやるから。スボフルスイング。